wanting to make sure that we can follow. But technology is technology.
Just try to click on share. When you look on top there is a bar, and extreme right, it's written share with an arrow going up. Do you have that?
The arrow is there, but the laptop itself.
Yeah, click on that arrow. It's
Yeah.
a black arrow next to leave. You click on it.
You see what? When I click to
And
next
then
to.
you have like you have like a drop menu coming down there. Even though it has got many windows, then you select one of the window.
What is preventing me, Mr. Mtombo, is my security setting. So my laptop
Okay,
sees
that's
me
fine.
as a stranger at this point in time. So,
Okay.
so it doesn't allow me
That's
to
fine.
access the files. When I click there, it takes me to security settings, and I'm trying to see if, yeah, because you see, when I check there, it says I logged in on my personal profile, and I'm worried that if I try to jump out and log in, maybe it may not allow me to do that. So that is the unfortunate thing that happened. But that being the case, colleagues, let us continue. I think we have wasted around 10 minutes already. Good evening, everyone. My name is Albert Jeleni. Tonight, I want us to just have a discussion, really, and this being a way to reopen the discussion. You will know at some point we had the online sessions, and at some point we stopped, and again we were on. And part of the reason at times we are not able really to be online, it's a bit of a lack of support. We all tend to be very busy, but fortunately now we've got people who said, no man, we can work on this thing. We can get it going, and we're trying to make sure that we move from that point of view. And that's why for tonight I am then saying that this should be perhaps a start, for the sessions that we used to have, and we can then continue the sessions as we had hoped to into the future. So hopefully this will be a very good start for us. And I have chosen a topic that allows us partially to introduce or to reintroduce the LCCI. And this is critical because some of the people are not always able to follow. Some of the people are new, and that being the case, it makes sense if we can make sure that everyone follows what the chamber is all about. And like I said, I've got a presentation that I have prepared. I'm going to share with everyone. People should just drop their emails. Now, we all know that South Africa is hosting the G20 in 2025. I just don't know if we all know what that means for us. This comes with immense opportunities. And if I was to call you to use your imagination, imagine this. I don't know if perhaps maybe in your office you have got the globe, that map that we used to study in geography and all that. Imagine the top 20 countries in the world. These are the countries that together and jointly they own or they represent about 85% of the global GDP. Now, all these people in 2025, they are saying we're focusing in South Africa. They come and collaborate, and co-create in South Africa. They are saying, we're gonna go to South Africa. I usually call this a stockfell. So these 20 countries, big economies, they are saying the stockfell is going to South Africa in 2025. And I say to you, and if it were a stockfell, what would actually happen? And you know this. One of the things is that the contributions, the monies and everything are going to be coming to South Africans. So the contributions were going to be coming. So if the agreement was that we're all contributing 10,000, everybody brings that. So this 85% of the GDP at this point in time, they're looking to South Africa. They are saying, where and how can we invest in South Africa? And really more than anything, that's what it is. where and how can we invest in South Africa? That is the G20 for you. It's top 20 countries in the world, 85% of the GDP. All eyes are on South Africa. And they want to give us something. They want us to benefit out of this thing. The question is, are we able to leverage? And when we're talking and when we're having meetings like this, is to try and stimulate, get people to understand that, guys, we have one of the biggest opportunities in our hands. The G20 is here. That is one of the biggest opportunities we can ever have. But what are we going to do? So in a nutshell, my content is going to work out like this. I'm going to talk about what is the G20 a little bit. I'm going to talk about the networking that is embedded on the so-called G20. And I'm going to give a little bit an overview of what some might call in economics. You know, we talk about B2B, B2C, and B2G. That is business to business transactions, business to community or customer transactions, and business to government transactions. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the chamber services and collaboration. We're going to talk about how can you grow your business? How can you create a legacy? And we're also going to share a little bit on areas where we believe are opportunities for growth. So if anybody wants to invest, those are the areas where we believe you can quickly invest and grow your business. So basically, that is the highlight of what we will be talking about. And I just want to try another magic, colleagues. Wait for me, because I'm worried about not being able to project. Maybe if I change the device, I might be able to win. So let me try at the same time to see if I cannot log in from the other device, because this is very important that people are able to follow using my presentation slides. Let's see if that's going to allow us. Okay. Let's see if that is going to allow us. If that works, then I'm a happy man. Okay, I think I'm in on the other device. Let's see. This should be able to allow me to present. So in the nutshell, you know, that is the overview of the presentation. Let me get my presentation up, and then we're going to talk proper English, proper. Because after this presentation, I'm really hoping people will be fired up, and we're going to position ourselves for what is coming. And if we miss this opportunity, it's going to come back again probably in 2045, like I always say. And we really need to make sure that we grab this opportunity. Okay, I think we're going to survive with this one. Okay. So it's a different device that I'm not used to, but hopefully it will allow me to project. Okay, let me project screen. Do you see something, colleagues? Is something coming up?
Yes, something is coming. Yes, we can see the screen.
Thank you very much. That's technology for us. Okay. All right, it's still visible. Is it visible?
Yes, it is okay.
Okay.
Yes, it is visible. The intro page.
Yes. Now that presentation, colleagues, that you're seeing there on the screen, partly it's meant to educate you on how to do presentation. Now, whatever I have put there, usually I wouldn't put on my screen, I'll put on the side, I'll just read it out myself. But that talks to how prepared you must be when you're making a presentation. So usually when I'm making my presentation, I will be having that as notes, where I will start properly and say, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight as we discuss a topic that is close to my heart: growing a business into a legacy and exploring opportunities within the G20 in South Africa. So basically that is part of a lesson as well, that colleagues, let us also use this platform to grow our skill, to hone our skills, to become better at what we do. And I'm trying to teach practically. Now, what you see now on the screen is the agenda. So I have already indicated what we want to talk about. But let us go now to the G20. And I hope what you are seeing there is the screen that says, what is G20? Any confirmation for me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Now, looking at the screen, you can see there, we are saying the G20 is a global network. This is a platform where, I'm having a feedback here. A platform that brings together 20 of the world's major economies, as I have indicated. Its purpose goes beyond just politics. And what we have been seeing is the political side only, because you hear that, Minister so-and-so has come and all those things. But really, this is more about the economy. The G20 is more about the economy than politics itself. It's a network that shapes global economic policy. So one of the opportunities that we have as South Africans is to have an input into the policy. We're in charge of developing a policy. So we have got committees that are sitting down and we have been giving inputs. And whatever we see as a way forward for now goes into a policy, global trade agreements, and financial stabilities. And these are very important things. For example, if you are into import-export, these are the issues that affect you. But some of you might be saying that you are not into imports and exports, but I believe all of us are. Because most of us, somehow, we buy goods that are not made in South Africa. Or in some instances, we may not know that the chicken that we buy from ShopRite might be coming from America. But really, if those policies are not favorable to us, we're going to have a situation where we don't have food in South Africa. We're going to have a situation where we have got a crisis. So each and every country is selling to another or buying from the other one. It's important that we participate on those policies. But it's also important that we understand those policies, because you then know how to have products that can be sold to other countries. You also know how to import, how to buy products that you're going to sell. In this space, countries cooperate not only to resolve crises, but also to identify new opportunities for growth. Now, the moment we talk about new opportunities for growth, who are they talking about? It's business people. Government itself doesn't do business. When they say that there are new opportunities for growth, they are actually saying, you business people, these are the things that you can do. Now, in many ways, the G20 is similar to other networks. For example, if you understand the BRICS, you understand the SADC, the AU, and the G7. Now, why do we have many of these? Again, I'm going to come back to the issue of the stokvel. I mean, some of us, we belong to many stokvels. If it's not a stokvel, it's a family society. If it's not that, it's an insurance that you're paying for. Now, each of these alliances, it's built on the same principle. And what is that principle? It's connection. It's relationship. So we are saying in the G20, let us agree as the 20 countries how we're going to treat each other. There are long-term contracts there. How do we move goods from South Africa to America, for example? And we agree for the next 10 years or 15 years, this is how we're going to do it. There is stability there. You cannot just wake up the next day and find that your goods are not allowed into that particular country. So it's that relationship that we're actually shaping. And as South Africa, we are trying to be in the different platforms. No, the one that we're actually having, we are in the G20 is for the best. And then you have got the BRICS, which is for the developing. These are countries that are saying, you know what, we are not yet at the top there. So South Africa is sitting with the top on the G20, but they also realize that, you know what, we need to have this stokvel also with those that are developing. Then they belong to BRICS. They also said, no, but we need to have it with our neighbors as well. They went to SADC. Oh, we need to have it, on the continent. They went to AU. These are stokvels that are meant to benefit us as business people. Benefits. These forums exist because no single country can thrive in isolation. Instead, they leverage relationships and make sure that they partake in their shared interest. That is G20. Now, what does it mean for you and me as business people? And I think we can learn from that. Let us not have G20 go and we didn't learn a lesson. The same, colleagues, is true in business. No company becomes a legacy on its own. I usually say to people, and I ask, who did you come with on this platform? Did you just come alone? Or do you have people that you play a stokvel with? In case you are not there one of the days, is there someone to come and share with you what we spoke about? In case we talk about an idea that needs 2 or 3 people, is there someone that you can join hands with? And most of the time, that's where we fail. But suppose we said we want to take opportunities in the G20 itself. Believe you me, if you go as an individual, they won't be interested. Because these people, they want to leave what we call legacy project or what we call catalytic projects. In actual fact, they are most interested to fund ideas that are in the range of $1 billion. Now you have got a business idea which is worth what, 50,000, 2 million, 3 million? You need other people to be able to convince somebody from the G20 to invest in you. So you need a network, and one of the most powerful network for business people, it's a chamber like ourselves. And colleagues, you must ask ourselves why we as the executive of the Limpopo Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we are really pushing so hard, fighting so hard that we have this. It is because we know in the absence of this stokvel, the chamber stokvel, we are not able to take advantage of the G20 opportunities. We can't take advantage of the BRICS opportunities, SADC opportunities, AU opportunities, G7 opportunities. But let alone opportunities that sits in the Northwest, opportunities that sits in the Western Cape, opportunities that sits in the Free State or Gauteng. Because these things operate in the network. If you need to move something from the Western Cape, you're going to need to know somebody who's in logistics. But that person who's in logistics might say that we don't go into rural areas. They need to know somebody who does the last mile delivery. That is the whole point of having a network. Now, what activities are going to be happening in South Africa during the G20? There are a number of activities that are going to be taking place. And this is common for all countries. Wherever there is the G20, they make sure that there are these activities that they undertake. And I have put the calendar there. It may not be perfect, but it will give you a highlight of what has been happening. Now, we know that somewhere around December 2024 and January 2025, South Africa officially assumed the G20 presidency, which is going from the 1st of December up until the 30th of November. We have that 1 year to make it matter. And we have already used 6 months. What have you done? What do you have? How have you contributed? And this is one in a lifetime opportunity. Then in the same period, they announced the priorities. Remember, I told you that South Africa must decide what G20 means in 2025. They said we're talking solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Do you know what this does for us as South Africans in particular? Remember, we have got the BE policies, which have caused a little bit of a stir with America and all those things. This gives us an opportunity to clarify what those are and also put them in a global scale. So basically now we have an opportunity to make sure that there aren't confusions anymore about what it means when we're saying that we are doing transformation. And that's what we said: solidarity, equality, and sustainability. And in that space, as we're doing policies, we go and define what do we mean solidarity, standing together. And that's where South Africa, in some of those spaces, they said, guys, we are in the G20 as South Africans, but we live in Africa. And in some of the policies that were being discussed, Africa was featuring because South Africa was saying solidarity. So we had that opportunity to make the world understand who we are as South Africans. When we say equality, what do we mean? Then we describe it from our history. We say there was this animal called apartheid. And therefore, at this point in time, it's necessary to do land expropriation without compensation. We talk about sustainability. In that space, we're also able to say, as much as we want to talk about the green, we want to talk about preserving the environment. Remember, South Africans have not been participating, all of them. So you cannot just say South Africa as well must move from coal and they must go to use solar. No, allow South Africans perhaps for a while to continue for the next 50 years, for the next 100 years, still using coal. Let us target those countries where everybody was equally participating. That is the opportunity that we had on a policy scale. But on the individual business scale, we also have an opportunity to be understood. You sit with a company in Italy. You say to them, look, guys, we have business principles in South Africa. If you come into South Africa and you want to establish, they want 51% majority. That is the principle. Now you don't have to struggle anymore. So it means South Africa gets to be understood. The Stokvel came to our country to elevate us. February, March 2025, Cape Town hosts the finance ministers and central bank governors. So those 20 countries, they were actually here. I do know that in some instances, other countries do come that are not in the G20. There was a launch of the Cost of Capital Commission with focus on debt relief and climate finance. Part of those things that I'm talking about, the debt relief as well, is very applicable to Africa and South Africa. And we then had a first tourism working group meeting, April to May technical Sherpa track meetings, digital economy, employment, anti-corruption, disaster. And you'll remember I told you that we have got 3 members in the LCCI who are part of some of the committees that are shaping policies. So some of our members were contributing there, speaking for the province, speaking for municipalities, speaking for our country. And these things are going to go to a global stage. It's going to make sure that South Africans were actually understood for who we are. Second, research and innovation working group, Startup 20 engagement, June 2025, U20, that is Urban Summit in Tshwane, Sustainable Finance and Anti-Corruption Working Group, and SAI 20 Summit, and July to October hosted in Johannesburg. So for those who are in TikTok, you are teaching me. I didn't know I can accept you to see me. Thank you. So I'm learning as well. So those are the guys who are very much advanced there. And thank you very much for joining in. Now we go to the next slide, colleagues, and hopefully the slides are still visible on your side. And sorry for those who are in TikTok because they cannot see the slides. I'm continuing on summarizing the G20 activities in South Africa in 2025. So in a nutshell, we are likely to host about 120 G20 meetings across all provinces, bringing global cooperation to local communities. And these are official meetings, colleagues. If you count unofficial meetings where I get a call, and embassy says, there is this company, it's in South Africa, they want to meet 1, 2, 3. You would have seen at some point I advertised, for those who are into import export, Indonesia wants to meet. Those are not part of those meetings that are being spoken about. These are official meetings that are going to be happening, and which I said to some of you when we spoke the last time. Can't you elevate something about your town, about your municipality, that will make us recommend your town to be that place where, if they are saying they're coming to the province, they can actually come there? Key thematic areas that they focus on is climate, finance, debt relief, inclusive growth driven by presidential intent. Remember, I emphasized that we as South Africans were actually driving the agenda. There is also a diversity of engagements in that space. There is the Business 20, that is us, Township 20, the Youth 20, Startup 20. And then all of those things that we're going to be participating. I do know that with the Township 20, for example, they are choosing 20 townships, that are going to form part of the legacy initiatives where they're going to kickstart something, so that in the future we can say when G20 was in South Africa, in this township 1, 2, 3 was done. Now, South Africa's G20 year is not a passive hosting. And please, let us not politicize this. Many people are sitting in the corners and say this is for the president and his friends and wara. It's an active multi-level business, innovation, and policy engagement platform, creating original opportunities for chamber members to plug into. And I really want that to sink, colleagues. We have wasted already 6 months. We cannot waste the next 6 months. And you are asking, what were we supposed to do? What can we do? One of the things is that long time ago, we should have prepared ourselves, made each other friends and all those things. I've said to many people, it's embarrassing if we have to walk to a boardroom and only to find that amongst the people that I have, it's only people, for example, in agriculture and logistics, and perhaps in that space they wanted to talk about IT. And it's critical that we come together. But I want to go back to the issues of networks and the Chamber of Commerce. If anything, that's what I can hammer. And I know most of the time when I talk about opportunities, people start to think as individuals. I know some of you are thinking, what can I do? I've already told you they are looking for ideas in the range of billions. So forget about your small little idea. It's all about collaboration. So for example, you must be thinking like this. Is it possible that we can establish an academy that is going to be dealing with issues of tourism? So we have a state-of-the-art training facility, state-of-the-art kitchen that we can use to train in the future. So that will be something like a hotel on its own, but it's a training facility, and which will probably need, something close to $1 billion. And in that space, people who are in the tourism space needs to come together. Now, if all lodges, everybody in Limpopo will come together and say what we think we need, it's a facility where we can send our people to be trained to offer better service. And we are willing to collaborate to have such a facility, and you present that as an opportunity. The likelihood is that you win in that space. The same can be done in any space. Your accountants can talk about a space where you actually equip accountants. What is it that you don't have? What are you struggling with, for example? Are you struggling with international accreditation and all those things? We look into those things. So why do we belong to networks? For the same reason countries belong to the G20. Negotiate better deals, gain information and intelligence, access new markets, find support in times of crisis. That's why I say to you, come into the chamber. When you are in the chamber, you are able to negotiate a better deal. At times, it's actually not even to negotiate, it's knowing how much you are worth. So some of us are usually taking projects that we are losing money, and simply because we don't have people who can advise us in terms of how much are we worth. And you were not even supposed to be negotiating. You were supposed to just put it on the table. This is how much I am worth. Market intelligence. You'll remember in our last physical meeting, I have been sharing things that made some people realize that, if you want to play and win, you need to understand where the globe is. But you also need to understand where South Africa is. You also need to understand what it means. Say, for example, we are talking about unemployment. On the one hand, it's a bad thing, but at the same time, that can be an opportunity for you. Now, there are many of us who are focusing on activities that have got nothing to do with job creation. And you can actually change now and say, you know what, I want to go into training because there are so many people who are unemployed. That is an opportunity. But if you are not aware how bad unemployment is, how are you able to take advantage of that? You won't be able to. Access new markets. No, what does it mean accessing the new markets? We spoke about access to market. What is market in any case? And I'm going to talk about it at the bottom. When we say access new markets, what are we talking about? It's getting to know other people that we have not sold to before. That's what it is. That's the new market. And where do you find those people? In a networking space. And that is the reality that at times we don't understand. Now, the Chamber of Commerce, it's our G20, it's our business G20. That's what we are doing already. You are in municipality in Lipalale, somebody's in the municipality in Giani. When we meet in Pulukwani, that is our G20. Visualize your municipality as some kind of a country on its own. And then you meet somebody who says, in our municipality, mangoes are galore. And you realize that in your space, there are no mangoes. And I will give that example of mangoes because, where I live myself, during summer, mangoes are everywhere and they even rot and cause mosquitoes for us. But if we're interacting in that space, you're able to say, guys, if you knew what mangoes mean to us, or if we can just help do archer, like we do a lot of archer such that we don't even know what to do anymore. So the Chamber of Commerce, it is our B20, is the network that connects us. And I hope you can now go back to your basics of economics. And if you didn't do basics of economics, as a word of advice, if you're in business, find time to enroll somehow, one way or the other. Just do economics. It's very critical that you understand that. Now, we talk about B2B, business to business trade. That is in the connection space. We talk about business to government, and we talk about business to consumer. Now, in the next slide, I actually expand a little bit on that. Now, when we talk about business to customer, in this space, colleagues, that's where you serve strangers. You can just advertise on Facebook and somebody will see the product and they want to buy. You open a shop, people walk in, you don't even know them, they come and buy. So in B2C, businesses sells directly to customers. You are often marketing to strangers. B2C is crucial, especially for retail, hospitality, or services. But it's often transactional and built on marketing reach rather than deep relationship. Now, if you are going to be a business that is in manufacturing and you want to grow, I would like to believe that at some point you may want to sell your products to other businesses so that they sell, meaning that you want to become a wholesaler rather than a retailer. And I can tell you that when we talk about access to market, most of the time we're not talking about the customer itself. We're talking about people who can reach other customers that we can't reach. So for example, you have a product, you want to put it in ShopRite. That process of putting it in ShopRite has got nothing to do with marketing. I don't know if that makes sense. You don't market the product and ShopRite comes to you and say, we want your product in our shelves. You create a relationship with ShopRite and you have an agreement to have the product on the shelf. Where do you meet ShopRite? How do you meet ShopRite? How do you make sure that your presentation is good? You meet them in the chamber meetings. Now that speaks to B2B, business to business relationship. And this is where trust comes into action. B2B, on the other hand, it's all about relationships. Now remember that relationships, usually they flourish if you meet somebody who introduces you to somebody. I think there is someone who has unmuted their mic. If you can just mute your mic, please. Now, businesses prefer working with businesses they know and trust. And that is a reality. No matter how much you market on that level where you need to get your product to another business, you need relationships. They need to know that they can trust you, that you are not stealing the products that you are having. They need to know that you are reliable, you're going to honor the agreement. They need to know that you are capable of doing that. So most of the time when we're talking access to market, you know what people usually do, which is very funny. I find it very funny. They actually organize flea markets. I mean, there's not access to market. You know, not at all. Because that is just a temporary. And most of the time during that time, you may not make a sale. Now, I usually say you want to do that almost as the fashion parade. In the fashion parade, they're not bringing products so that people buy in terms of taking. They're bringing products so that big companies can say, we want that in our shop. And I don't know if that's making sense. You know, and we are running, most of us, you know, you want to run, you want to go into that space and all those things. Ms. Patella, you wanted to speak.
Yes, Mr. President, I have a question maybe towards the end when you are done, just if you can give us just a few minutes to just ask.
That's fine. We're going to have time to talk, and we can talk as much as we want. So there are no limitations. So we're going to take questions at the end, colleagues. You can prepare those and you can be writing them down. Thank you so much. So if you are manufacturing a product, your biggest customer might not be an individual buyer, but a retailer willing to put your products on the shelves. Even as a small business, you might supply materials to a bigger manufacturer, for example. These relationships are rarely built through advertising alone, they are built through networks. That's where the Chamber of Commerce comes in. The Chamber creates the environment where businesses meet, collaborate, and form partnership. It's where you build trust before you build deals. Now, I always send people to go and do research. You know, go and understand why the economy in Johannesburg is thriving is because you have got the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Cape Town is the same, Durban is the same. These are Chamber of Commerces that have been existing for close to 100 years. And I'm saying, Limpopo, wake up. Unless we are able to do that, we're not going anywhere. B2G, accessing government opportunities. Governments are the largest buyers of goods and services in any economy. Public-private partnerships, infrastructure projects, and large tenders all offer huge opportunities. You and me, we only know about supply of stationery, not so. When they are talking about that train that they are saying it's coming from Gauteng, that is going to be a triple P. You need partnerships to do that. You're not going to bid on your own. The hospital that they are doing, most of us are just going there, you know, I want to subcontract and I want to. You were not part of the bid. You were supposed to have organized yourself, you become part of the bid. So, such that by the time it closes, subcontracts are already locked in. But most of us, we actually just come. And remember, if you are not part of the initial deal, you don't participate on profit. They only give you the labor money. But if we are part, and the only way you can be part is to belong to a network where they are saying company X is planning to bid. We are looking for companies that are going to do tiling. Then you agree from the onset. Then you are likely to come up with profit. However, governments prefer working with organized, credible businesses. And that's why some of our triple Ps are being taken by a bank done by non-South African companies. So, simply because we're not organized enough to be able to provide those services. So being part of the chamber positions you as a serious player, provides credibility, gives you access to information about tenders, policy changes, and government projects. Through the chamber, businesses can even collaborate to bid for large government contracts that will be impossible to tackle individually. Colleagues, I spent a lot of time preparing. I even managed to produce that summary there. That graph that tells you B2B, trusted networks for contracts. And if you look at it, you know, in the G20 space, nations negotiate about tariff reductions. I think President Trump has made lots of us understand what are tariffs during his presidency. So in that space as well, they come, they talk about trust. We want your trust to come into our country without tariffs and all those things. In South Africa, I think we have AGOA as well, which we sign with America. Our goods are going to move to America without tariffs and all that. B2G, access to tenders, triple P, regulatory advocacy and all those things, and B2C and all that. Business growth through collaboration. Now, you're asking, how do I grow my business then? Because each of us, of course, are here for our own businesses. And you should even ask me, when I'm sitting here, I've prepared so much to talk to you. How do I make money out of this? And I know some are thinking, as the Chamber of Commerce, we have got lots of money coming from Sky and all those things. In the Chamber of Commerce, we operate like a church. When we go to church, we all just give to make sure that the church is running. So what happens is that as I'm talking to you, somebody is seeing my talking and presentation skills. The likelihood is that they're going to call me tomorrow and say, we want you to come and facilitate a workshop. Now, that is the power of using this platform. I know there are so many people who are holding back. We have been saying this platform is here. You can even come on these Tuesdays. You can talk and all those things. But people are holding back and all those things. They just want to come and benefit. They want to come and benefit and all those things. No, you come. When we say we pray, we all pray together and all that. And we all come, and contribute. When they say it's time for offering, we go and give offering. So how do we move from business growth to creating a legacy as well? That is critical. No business grows in isolation. Grow requires access to new markets. And remember, new markets, it's new people or it's people that you do not know. Now, if you were to talk about this from the dating point of view, having to find a date and all of those things, that if you don't go out there, to a club or to a conference or even to a funeral, no, you don't get a date, you don't get to meet anybody. New markets, it's people that we have not been serving. You need to know that. So it could be in South Africa, in the Chamber of Commerce space, that's where we share those opportunities. International space, that's where we share those opportunities. You need partnership, you need collaboration, sometimes mergers and acquisition. And I don't know if this is understood, but this is an assignment as well. Go and look out for what is mergers and acquisition. That's how you grow your business. I'll give an example with Apple. Apple didn't invent everything that they sell. They actually acquired some of the technologies. They partnered with manufacturers and improved upon existing innovations. Legacy companies often build on foundations laid by others. They connect bits and pieces from different businesses to create something bigger. I usually tell people that most of the businesses that I participated on, I either partnered with somebody who had started in that space or I acquired it from somebody. That's how you grow your business. So if you're running a bakery and you know somebody who is baking just scones in another village where you do not have presence, you may want to find a way to collaborate with them. It's either you go into a partnership where you're saying, you know what, I'm going to supply you with the ready mix flour. So instead of trying to push bread everywhere, you make bread, but you make ready mix flour for them to do the scones and they sell. That's how you actually grow your business. But what people try and do is that we have got a bakery here. You want to go into another town, open another bakery. You need to diversify, being where you are. And that's where mergers and acquisitions come into play. Being part of the chamber helps you to find partners for joint ventures, pool resources with other businesses, discover opportunities for mergers and acquisitions. Legacy, beyond profit to permanence. What is legacy? And for me, I say legacy can be seen as a company that outlives its founder. And usually it's built on borrowed innovation, not isolated genius. You know what? I have noticed that many people who go into business, they want to try and become geniuses and they want to invent something new. And I go, go into the retail space, which is now mainly Indian, Pakistan occupied. They just identified an opportunity and they said, oh, this is easy. You open a shop, you put products, you sell. And in that process, they realized that, you know what, you can go and buy a window frame, but you can also make another one which is cheaper in your shop. And they are thriving on that. It's a business model that has been there. You just go into that space. Now, most of the SMMs, they're not doing that. They're actually trying to create. We start by creating a product ourselves. You know, it's that thing that, no, I want to make my own arch and then I go and sell it. No. You start a spaza shop. Sell the normal archer. But then you realize that, you know what, there is an opportunity for garlic archer that is not there. Then you make your garlic archer, you sell it in the spaza shop as well. Now, Edison didn't invent the light bulb. He improved 23 patents. That's how he made money. Ultimately, a business legacy is about continuity. A legacy business outlives the founder, retains value across generations, built on innovation rather than invention, and influences industry. Now, why is it critical that you don't focus on something new? When you're not there, it may not fly in the market. Those that remain may not understand it as much as you understood. So as much as you want to come up with something very creative, go and do something. Come on. Very simple business. Improve on that. You know, introduce your products into that space. We must all aspire to leave a legacy, and legacies are never built in isolation. So, I have spoken about the legacy projects that the G20 wants to leave. And with this one, it's also an assignment, colleagues. And when I give you an assignment, I don't want you to go and think, come up with an idea. I want you to go and identify somebody who's in the particular space and say, you know what, I think with the way you have been doing things, if you come and meet our chamber president, there is an opportunity that you and me, himself, and other people, we can do 1, 2, 3. Now, if you come to me and say, you know, I was thinking we can start a very big manufacturing plant, I go like, do you have the experience in there? Remember, we want something that is going to be funded this year, not next year and whatever. So you must come and say, we are currently manufacturing so many t-shirts, we want to manufacture so much, but we also want to do training at the same time. This person is very good with manufacturing, that is good with training, I'm good with marketing. We have come together to be able to push that. That's what we're looking for. But people run alone. So we need projects that are going to be catalytic, projects that serve not just individual businesses, but the broader economy. Initiatives that showcases South African businesses, innovation, and collaboration. Examples might include joint manufacturing hubs targeting G20 export markets. So in that G20, if we can find something that they do not have, like pap. You know, in some countries, they don't have pap, and we've got our brothers and sisters who live there. And we come and say, you know what, we just want to process pap and send it there. And we make that agreement now where all these countries, they are saying we're going to buy pap from South Africa. Innovation labs solving challenges in renewable energy, mining, or agriculture. Programs that help small businesses meet export standards. Such projects will gain more support from government and international partners because they align with G20 spirit of cooperation and sustainable development. What will be the Chamber's role? There is to connect with complementary businesses, access generational knowledge workshops, mentorship. Alone, you are a startup. In the Chamber, you are a movement. Now, I'm not going to go into the details in terms of what is the Chamber. Suffice to say that you can see the Chamber is a service provider that is there to service you. We also provide practical services that help businesses engage in international trade. One of the examples is certificate of trade. If you need to move your products now to Zimbabwe and you have manufactured them yourself, they're going to need a certificate. It's a Chamber of Commerce that can give you that certificate. Business matching services, where we can make sure that we can contact Zimbabwean Business Chamber have deliberation, and we agree that we need chilies to come or to go to Zimbabwe, and we need tobacco to come to South Africa, and policy advocacy in that space. And if I were to give an advice, because I've seen many people, they just pay 300 rand, and they think because they pay 300 rand, they must start to benefit. Now, your 300 rand, it's only good enough to allow us to process your membership form. It's that cost. So if I need to get somebody to sit and process it, the 300 rand is gone. But we're doing that because it's critical that we have got a list of members, so that when the Zimbabwe Chamber of Commerce and Industry says to us, how many members we have, we say we've got so many. Do you have a database? We have the database. It's for our credibility. But if you talk about membership fees are way higher than that when you look at the other chambers. Now, but what do we expect you to do once you do that? Belonging to a chamber doesn't mean paying a subscription fee and staying quiet. It means active participation. It means volunteering your skills to serve others. For example, if you're an accountant, offer workshops on financial literacy, or you can use this platform to do that. If you are a lawyer, help businesses understand contracts and compliance. If you are in marketing, run sessions on digital marketing trends. If you're in logistics, teach businesses about exploring. Now, I want to deal with something that I find disturbing at times, that when it comes to teaching, it seems everybody wants to make money out of that. And teaching is supposed to be a marketing tool, colleagues. If you are a marketing company, it's not in your favor for you to organize workshop where people pay 300 rands or whatever to come and learn. You use that as a marketing, build these companies so that they can then come to you for financial statements. Now you have people that are lawyers. Instead of being lawyers, they're actually teaching law. No, I want you to be my legal department. But for you to do that, these services we must volunteer. And I just gave an example that as I'm volunteering, I'm talking here. That's where I get business. That's how I get business. The more you serve, the more visible you become. People get to know, like, and trust you. And trust, as we said, is the cornerstone of B2B relationships. But if you were to look at it as a church as well, most of us who have been to church, we learn to sing at church. We learn to do public speaking at church. We are creating the chamber platform precisely for that. It is in this platform where you can actually learn and practice those skills. So just make sure that you do the subscription, be active. And if we come to a meeting like this, not only to come and have questions as we're talking, prepare and say, after he finishes to present, I want to share this for 2 minutes, in 2 minutes only. Like, really share that. It's part of us actually growing together. So, colleagues, just to share a little bit on opportunities where I think you must focus on as I close. Agro-processing is one of the areas where there is an opportunity in Limpopo. Green economy and renewable energy, we have got a very hot sun. Mining value chains, tourism and hospitality, logistics and transport. And as I'm saying all of these things, I'm wondering if most of us even understand what's happening in those spaces. At some point, I spoke about value chains. Construction and infrastructure. There is a huge opportunity in Limpopo for construction that is yet to come. ICT and digital. I don't know why does this thing tell me it has to stop my life. This technology. Okay, whatever is happening, it's okay in any case. I think somebody just hijacked my TikTok. Okay. So those are the areas where you can actually look into education and skills development, training centers, vocational trainings. I'm not talking about those things where you call people into a workshop. When you say you want to do training and you want people pay, you must be able to give real skills. Oh, I see what's happening now. Now I've learned. It seems TikTok, when they don't see you active, they then want to switch off. Then you need to do something. I've learned that. So those are the areas where colleagues you can look into. But all these things, I'm not talking small scale. I'm talking big scale. In the agro processing, that's where you must think province wide. What is it that we can do? Not just you alone. Because if we're going to supply shop right, we need to make sure that product can be found in Cape Town as well. And that's where, when we say access to market, we have a problem. Colleagues, I've come to the end of my presentation. And thank you very much for listening to me. I think my presentation was long today. But that being the case, I'm going to give an opportunity for people to speak. If you want to speak, you can just raise your hand, or you can do it. You can just unmute and speak. Let me see if I'm able to see everyone. All right, I'm not able to see the hands. Okay, Patela, you can be on the platform.
Good evening, colleagues, Mr. President. Thank you for the very informative presentation that you've made about the G20 and how it links to the chamber and our role. Just actually see our role in the bigger picture, that this is not just about Limpopo. And I've had the privilege to be in the task force for the Business 20 Infrastructure and Finance Task Team. And we are now done with the policy, and then now they're just finalizing it. But what I wanted to understand even deeper, because this was never even like fully touched in the meetings that we had, is you spoke about the priorities, the solidarity, equality, and sustainability. How are these priorities developed? Because we were not part of that discussion when the priorities were being developed. Who determines what are the priorities for G20 2025? And the other thing I'd like to understand, you mentioned the Township 20, Youth 20, Business 20. What are the other sectors within the G20? And where can we go and read up the draft policies that have been produced? I know with the Business 20, there must be more than one draft policy because of the different task forces. Where can we access the other draft policies for the other sections to read about them even before attending the meetings and the summits? Then the other thing was, it's been a great opportunity to attend these meetings and to give inputs. They came to us with the draft policy and they presented it to us, and then we had to give inputs to what they were saying. Some of the inputs were taken, some were not taken, but I wanted to know how do we participate at a higher level next time? Because these guys who came to us already being the chairperson of the force and everything's all set up, you just coming there to give inputs. How can you then better participate next time? Maybe be part of that committee. That's that initial committee that is there that's driving the whole thing. How can we upgrade to participate at that level? And then the last thing that I want to ask is about the food security. According to your understanding, because is South Africa producing enough food for itself to survive, or are we relying on imports to survive? If there can be a war and there's no longer imports of food in South Africa, can we survive? That is my question regarding food security. Thank you.
Okay, I've got limitations in terms of making notes when you are speaking, so you're still gonna remind me in terms of the questions. Please just bear with me. The first one was the issue of what I call the theme. As far as I understand, that is the president's right. It's like, the way he does it with the SONA. He comes and speaks at the SONA and he gives you the direction for the whole of the year. So really that is the prerogative of the president to come up with that. Now there are so many layers, on the G20 that level of the committee is probably maybe 2 or 3 steps down. So by the time they actually come to that level, and the reason being, we must be able to have a policy and on time, and it must align with the global trend. So by the time they come there, they are saying that yes, a policy that was developed last year, we're not going to disturb it that much. This is the theme for South Africa, and this is what the president meant by the theme. What is the interpretation from where you are on these things? So some of the things, when you put them and they do not align with the theme, unfortunately they have to put them outside because the theme has been done. Some of the things that you are saying, if they do not align mostly with what was said in the previous G20, then they do not put them in there. And that would have been the reason more than anything else. And perhaps the last input there is that one, to participate on that space and meaningfully and fully, needs to understand the global geopolitics and the global economy. Like, as you give an input as a South African, you must understand what is the implication for Italy. Because in that platform, you have got Americans, Italians, all their countries and all those things. So even when you give inputs, you must give inputs that are on a global, understandable level, unless where you're trying to educate the globe itself. In terms of the policies, they won't be available now because they are being developed to be handed over. They are not for use now. What is for use now? It's us knowing that the Stokvel is in South Africa, they're going to be guests. Without policies, you don't even need policies for that. Without policies, because this is business. All you need to do is to research, what do Americans need from South Africans? What do Italians need from South Africans? And then, because it's easy to make a call to Italy now and say, because you're going to be coming to South Africa, we thought we're going to have a meeting with you, or can we have a virtual meeting with you? So with those things, you do not even need to understand the policy. You just need to know it's easy now to talk to any country amongst the G20 to make sure that you can get some deals. So for future participation, it's just to follow, when it goes to America. In terms of the policies that were developed by the previous country, those ones are online. So one of the things that I had to do in my case was just to make sure that I go and read those policies that were developed last year. I had to look at those that were developed a year before last. Before you participate on those meetings, you need to understand the trend in the last 5 years at least. Where is this thing going? So as much as you want to educate, you actually don't want to change a train that is on motion already and it's on the tracks. What was the next question or other question?
Okay, the other question is about the Township 20, Youth 20. Where can we read about those ones that we're not participating in, and also about the food security?
Yes, so in terms of the T20 and all those things, like I said, that is a policy in development. So all of us won't be able to read about them until they're publicized. So once everything is done and it's publicized, so hence I'm saying these policies are not for this year. They are actually for next year. We just have to trust that those who are in the Township 20, they're going to represent us very well, as much as we represented them very well and on these other platforms. In terms of food security, there is no country, as far as I know, that would have food security sufficiently on its own. And that is because we're also dealing with unpredictable factors like, global warming, the issues of drought, the seasons. Just to give an example, you get mangoes in a certain season in South Africa, and at some point you do not have mangoes. And so I can't remember what is the season, but let us assume you get them in summer, and they like growing in summer. So you only have summer for 4 months or so in South Africa, and then you're going to have mangoes. So it means that immediately after that, you will have to rely on the other country that it's in summer, to be producing mangoes, unless if that tree really it's only favorable in South Africa. So what happens as countries is just during our season, when it's us who are actually planting, we plant enough to be able to give to other countries, so that when it's their season of planting, they can give to us. That's how food security actually comes about. But this terminology, most of the times, speaks to our ability to do the minimum that we must do. Because remember, this is a trade. Now, if in Zimbabwe, they are producing enough mangoes, and in South Africa, we can produce enough mangoes, but we don't produce, why should they give us their mangoes when we're not giving them mangoes? So whenever we talk about food security, the way I understand it, it's let everybody do their part so that we can convince other countries to be able to do their part. So even if there is war, where there are agreements, we find a way to get food to one country to the other. And of course, we don't know how war is going to happen, whether it's going to be happening in our country. But what happens is that during the war, the value chain still operates somehow. They just don't operate directly. And where you have got strong ties, a country that knows that now we have got maize, we have got milli, but we may not have it in 3 months, they're going to ship it to you because they know that you're going to give it to them in the next season. But what is worrying in South Africa is our low productivity. We do not do as much as we should do. And that's when we say that our food security is in crisis, simply because we're not producing enough to sell to other countries, so that they are actually obliged to sell to us. Colleagues, any other questions? And I don't know if I covered your questions as well. Any other person who wants to ask? Ms. Khumucho.
Good evening, Mr. President and colleagues. I just wanted to assist from the admin side. There were 2 questions in the comment section. One from Mr. Marishani. He couldn't quite finish what he was writing, so I'm wondering if he still has a question. And also Dr. Kweps, he asked about opportunities in the agri-tech and the digital manufacturing.
So he wants to know if there are opportunities in that space.
Yes, I'm wondering also if you could maybe elaborate if he still has the questions.
So if he's there, and thank you so much, if he's there, he can come to the platform. Otherwise, I can attempt to speak. Thank you so much for that. Is there someone that wants to elaborate on that question? You are there.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, you can elaborate a little.
Good evening. Thank you so much. Yes, Prof. No, thank you so much, President, and thank you so much to all the guests for this wonderful session. So I was taking from the point whereby you were talking about the digital space, whereby a number of people in the agriculture, whenever they attend sessions such as this, or higher commissions and so forth, they seem to be lacking behind when it comes to the digitalization of things. And I'm sitting here, especially as a young person, looking at also how we can capitalize on the digital models that are available, but to be relevant to our needs as a society. For example, if I were to talk about drone or robotics and so forth, what does it mean to someone who is in your rural area, who is in your township area? So hence I'm asking about the opportunities, especially since I'm in the manufacturing space, in the agro-processing space to be specific. So I'm looking at how can we then build the legacy businesses, especially in line with the digital models. When are we considered or categorized under the digital model, especially because in part I had an experience whereby I didn't understand that there's a difference between a tech-enabled agricultural enterprise and an agri-tech. So we had an expert come in telling us that most of you think you're in agri-tech. You're not in agri-tech. You are just tech-enabled. You have an e-commerce store and all these other things, but you are not an agri-tech because you are not building, maybe for instance, your precision machinery and so forth.
Exactly.
That is an agri-tech form. So those are the things that I think we should look into sometimes, because technology, yes, it's being purported, but the question is, do we understand it in day-to-day life? Thank you.
Yes, indeed, opportunity is great, more so because, South Africa is a developing country. With a developing country, the nice thing is you do copy and paste. So you go and look and say, in America, how are they participating in agri-tech and being tech-enabled in agriculture? And you really just copy that and bring it to South Africa. That is the nice thing about a province like ours as well. So opportunity is there, but what is the challenge? It's what in economics they call an economy of scale. Now you're going to see that opportunity or that technology in America, you want to bring it in South Africa. You don't have farmers that are grouped together. It comes back to the chamber. Now suppose within the chamber, we have got the agricultural wing. Suppose within that space you are able to say, everyone who's in agriculture, we need to go into agri-tech and also be tech-enabled. And explain this is the difference. But if we were to have a laboratory of this nature, we need so many, should I call specimen or whatever they call it, to process. And therefore you need all of these farmers to then, but that is not enough. You also need to then say to the market, look guys, we want to, suppose we're talking about genetic modification. We want to do modification on this. We want to supply you with this. Are you willing to take this product? And they say to you, do you have enough that you can produce? You say, yeah, no, we have got 200 farmers in Limpopo. Total land is about maybe 200,000 hectares. Then that way you actually can win, because you cannot introduce agri-tech just for your company. And you also cannot be tech-enabled. When you are alone, it doesn't make sense. You need to be in numbers, and then you have got that economy of scale. Now, what other countries do, like the China did, is to then say, let us have something that is catalytic. So either we're going to do it as the state, or we're going to do it as a consortium. And what works in South Africa is to do it as a consortium. So it means that you can identify one of the agri-tech facility that is going to allow you to participate in a certain space. And you come and say, can we bring together, a number of farmers and we concentrate on this? That's how we work. Or you then say, we want to use drones, for example. Now, if the farmers are not ready for that, you can have your drones, but who cares? You can talk about all that it does and all those things. But you need a space where you are associated. And in that space where you are associated, it's possible to get a funder. You remember I spoke about the corporate social responsibility. You can approach one of the big companies, a mining company that is working in a particular space. Says, here are the farmers, they want to use drones. And it's going to reduce fatigue and all those things. You explain to them this is how they're going to benefit, and that's how we can actually do it. But the key to us to be able to elevate, again, lies in the fact that everyone is doing their own thing and they're isolated. Mr. Classy. We can't hear you, Mr. Classy.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think I was muted. Perhaps now I might be audible.
I can hear you.
Thank you very much for touching also on the issue for a Catholic service, a partner or so. I'm trying to assess and check the position of those that are in agriculture.
I've got an opportunity. I want to partner with someone who is in compliance position for planting. I think the availability of the space I've got is about 50 hectares that I want to partner with someone. And again, those who are in marketing services, I'll also request to even engage with them, to partner with them in that service. I think that's what I wanted to provide. But thanks for touching on it. It just revives on what I'm doing and what I'm looking for. The companies that I'm checking mostly, you find that they are not in compliant position. So primarily black sectors, perhaps, for such upliftment, and we can take any initiative and engagement going forward. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. I think anybody looking for opportunities, you heard that. So I have put my number as well on the chat screen there. It will be easier if you can send your email addresses to my WhatsApp, and then we can share the presentations. Any other hand, colleagues? All right, so I think as we close, you know, I'm gonna do what they call to action, or an altar call if we're in church. We need more people to come on board and actually assist and make sure that we can move. I have indicated in our last meeting that as the Chamber of Commerce, we have the provincial structure. We also have the district structures. In every district, we have a structure. And we have got the local municipality ones as well. And we have got the sectoral forums, which is about 21. And we have chosen to align the definition of a sector with how CITAs define a sector. So if we're talking about agriculture, we look at AgriCITA, how they define that, and then we call ourselves a sector. For each of these, we need administrators. And we have made it very clear that we are not running a political structure where people want to come in. Yeah, there is a chairperson, secretary, wara. We need administrators, people who get things done. We want to get things done. And what we will want to prioritize is the sectors themselves. So for each and every sector, we need to find ourselves moving. And for that, we're calling for people who must do administration. And when we talk about administration, people are really thinking admin as they have in their offices. In this level, it's more managerial. So it's not really about taking notes and all that. But it also helps to learn how to take notes. Because some of us needs to be able to grow to a point where we can be CEOs in companies and all that. So this is an opportunity to actually run with that. So as much as we're saying admin, it's really almost like a chairperson of that portfolio. But like I'm saying, we don't want to be political. The moment you talk about the chairperson of these portfolios, there are just a lot of things that go wrong. We want people who are going to make sure that things are happening. And when we say things are happening, it's very simple. In that space, when we say that we need to understand the agri-tech, and then somebody says, you know what, I'm going to organize a seminar, we're going to do that. I'm going to organize a database, we're going to do that, and all those things we move. So that is a call. People, please come and participate, whichever way you can participate. The second call, please don't walk alone. Don't be in the chamber alone. Make sure that you have got 5 to 10 people that you know, this I brought to the chamber. Because unless we have got the numbers, we don't win, believe you me, we don't win. And that's what is defeating us, is because we don't have the numbers collectively, but each of us are doing something. You know, I have my own machine, I'm sewing, I'm making school uniforms. Next door, they are also doing school uniforms, and next door as well, school uniforms. But none of us have got an embroidery machine. But if we talk to each other, we can then agree that, you know what, we need an embroidery machine. It's expensive, but let's make a plan. So don't come alone. Go and find more people. And we're going to be doing this every Tuesday. Suggest topics to us. And make it a point as well to also suggest if you need to speak about something yourself. But more than anything, come to a meeting prepared to contribute as well. Let it be a deliberation. So it's not in every meeting where I want to talk that long. If anything, I'll want to do a 5 minutes opening to 15, and then we start talking, because this is our chamber. Colleagues, thanks so much for joining in. It was a pleasure to be with all of you, and I hope we're gonna make sure we take advantage as the Limpopo province of the G20. May you have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, President. Thank you, and bye, everyone.